This is a demonstration of my mechanical alteration to Monopoly, which should introduce the aesthetic of discovery to playing the game. The mechanical alteration is a fairly simple one, in that all that it entails is keeping all the spaces of the board except for the four corners covered at all times during play. The game still works identically to how it would in any normal version of Monopoly. However, keeping the spaces a mystery throughout should help introduce exploration and discovery as the players experience the game. To demonstrate how this works exactly, if the first player, for example, rolled an 8, they would move 8 spaces like they normally would. And I would recommend placing the cards in a way that both maintains the mystery, but also very clearly still shows how many spaces are being moved each turn. So when a player lands on a space, they uncover it, and they'll lift any cards that are currently covering it, just in general, revealing any and all spaces that surround it that are covered by those cards. I think that's just the most convenient mechanically, and it also sort of allows for an expansion of knowledge in a naturalistic way as far as the mechanic is concerned. Because although we're talking about discovery here, we don't want the game to become significantly more confusing for players. So in this case, in this version of Monopoly, they landed on the Gateway Arch. And since this is the first time anyone's landed on this, they can do anything they would normal Monopoly. They would have the option to buy it. If they bought it, they would take the card. If they have a monopoly on these properties, because the game board is covered, if they buy houses, they should just keep track of the houses with the card itself, so that when any player lands on this space, they can make it clear that they own it and that they're owed rent, depending on the number of houses. I think this is just the clearest way to denote that without spoiling the mystery and discovery. At the end of the player's turn, they should recover the board as it originally was, staying on the space that they were, but now everything is covered again. And then Monopoly just continues as it normally would with all its normal mechanics. The way that this should introduce discovery is that the game world should be more interesting to explore, because it's not guaranteed or known that a player will be heading towards a certain space. The player will be less likely to be anticipating what's coming next. So if they land on a chance or community chest spot, or on a particularly nasty rent space for another player, it'll be a surprise, as well as the actual theme of the space, its color, what it does, etc. should all be a surprise, which is new for Monopoly. And also, in this version, this mechanical alteration might actually be more interesting with a version of Monopoly like this, Here and Now, or any of the different Monopoly themes, because that would help enhance the sense of mystery, because everyone already knows Boardwalk and Park Place and where they are. But in this way, they could actually be actively discovering the theme of the board as well as the board spaces themselves. That's obviously not required, though. It should be exploratory and discovery based, no matter which version of Monopoly you're using. So yeah, it's a fairly simplistic change to the game. The only thing to really make clear is that everyone should make a very earnest attempt to keep the board as covered as possible at all times, while also making sure that it's very clear where everyone is landing, how the spaces are how players are moving around the spaces. Also be very clear who owns what, where someone landed, because issues could arise if this isn't very clearly established.